Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, helping higher education marketing leaders share knowledge about learning, strategies, and tactics that are relevant today. See what you can learn today by listening to one of our episodes.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast hosted by Concept 3D. If you like our content, please follow and subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and Google. And if you're on Apple specifically, please drop us a comment. I'd love to hear what you think about us. My name is Shiro Hattori, and I will be your host today. And I'm really looking forward to talking about when to bring PPC or media buying in-house, as well as marketing and advertising for a business school. And for the conversation, I'm very excited to have Brian Connelly join us today. He is the Director of Marketing and Advertising at the University of Notre Dame, Mendoza College of Business. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you, Shiro. It's a pleasure and an honor. And I've really enjoyed getting to know you and learn more about Higher Ed Demand Gen. So excited to share a few minutes with you.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I know I have like a few business school guests coming on in the next couple episodes. So it's going to be really interesting to hear your thoughts and the other guests' thoughts specifically because it's a very interesting topic. And I do have an icebreaker for all my guests, Brian. So please tell me what you love about higher ed.
It's a simple answer. I love being on campus. So I'm on the beautiful University of Notre Dame campus every day. I get to see the Golden Dome when I walk in, and the students are exceptional. And that's probably one of the greatest things is interacting with student, faculty, staff, all in this beautiful setting. So it's kind of a dream job for me. And I've been, prior to this role, I was in consulting, and I've been to many business school and university and college campuses. So they're all different. They're all exciting. They're all wonderful places, right? So that's my favorite part about higher ed.
That's amazing. And, kind of along the same lines, can you first start by describing a little bit of your role and how you got here?
Yeah, so my current role is I am Director of Marketing at the Mendoza College of Business. And in my role is probably similar to other directors of marketing. I'm responsible for everything that has to do with the way that we present ourselves to prospective students. So that's primarily what we do. We also manage the website and some of our communications. So I've been in this role for about 4 years. And like I said, prior I was in consulting. One of my clients while I was in consulting, who is a professor here, a highly respected professor, was at Georgia State, Robinson College of Business at the time. I consulted with him. We did some really good work, became friends and colleagues. And when he came here to Notre Dame, he asked me to come and help him and them with some of their marketing. So that's how I ended up here.
That's awesome. And can you elaborate a little bit more on the consulting aspect? Like what exactly, what kind of consulting were you doing?
I worked for Converge Consulting, which was a boutique firm that specialized in helping business schools and find, enroll, retain best fit students for their business programs, primarily MBA programs. That was a startup type venture that was eventually bought by Ruffalo Noah Levitz, who's also a consultant and probably a provider of most things that have to do with higher ed. So worked there. They absorbed us or bought us and brought us in and worked in their paid media activities division, consulting and business development and project management and development as well.
That's awesome. So you went from the agency side of your current seat into actually working internally. So that's pretty interesting. That's great. Well, yeah, I know in our prior conversation, we talked a little bit kind of the state of in terms of the graduate schools or graduate schools and colleges of right now. What are some of the challenges going on right now at the graduate school level and colleges of?
Shiro, how long do you have? I thought this was 15 minutes. We have many challenges, right? So, but good challenges. The reason why we're all employed, I think, in this space is because there are shifts and trends in higher education as far as recruitment and also interest in programs, right? Depending on job markets and types of programs and technology. Right now, I think our biggest challenge is probably just is forecasting where we think the interest will be for the MBA programs specifically. So, as we've had trends like we kind of were ramping, like slowly sustaining and slightly ramping up into the global pandemic, and then we had a tremendous rise in interest for the program, and then it kind of dropped right after, where people started going back to work, and now we have a little flux in the economy. So we have all these external factors that impact the way that we position ourselves to our prospective audience. So I think those are the big challenges, and then higher ed, there's a this is my first time in higher ed, and everyone jokes around like it's slow to move and slow to change, and to be able to adapt to shifts in external market factors, you need to be nimble, you need to shift quickly, and you need consensus by a lot of different people when you're dealing within higher ed. So those are some of my biggest challenges, right? Is for us to like think ahead, move quickly, and then kind of make impact shifts that will help us in a very competitive market right now.
Got it. And in terms of the business schools as a whole around the country, do you think that um, you know MBAs are a lot less sought after with students, or like has any of the demand there changed at all that you know of?
Yeah, I mean, I think demand, I don't know, I don't want to speak to everyone. It's easy for people that are responsible for getting like selling a product and saying, oh, the demand is going down. I think it's just people's preferences are changing and their position are changing. And, you see in the news, there's a lot of speculation about like what is the value of an MBA? And we all know like how wonderful it is in higher education. It's life changing and transformative. Um, but the bottom line, the way that MBAs are ranked and the way they're perceived is what you get when you get out, right? Like, what is your outcome, right? You go in a certain way and you come out a certain way. So there are some shifts in that. I think the international, like we're always seeing trends up in the international market because they want to get a work visa. They want to kind of change their lives in one of the most amazing opportunity markets there is, which is the United States right now. When it comes to domestic, that's where we're having challenges, and that's where we're seeing some changes in interest. Um, the good part is we're seeing some positive movement with veterans, right? And we're also seeing some positive movements with underrepresented groups as well as female groups. So those are kind of offsetting some of the domestic demand. But it's very unclear right now, I think, from my perspective, even with a lot of data, like where this could go. And I think it's up to us to kind of think about curriculum and positioning to get more people interested in these programs, to understand like it's not just what you get when you get out, it's like it's how transformative the experience is for you as that working professional that wants to up their game and build an exciting and amazing network of people that are like-minded, right? And tap into faculty and tap into resources at a major institution. So those are all the things that we're kind of grappling with there. But to answer your question directly, like that's one of the things is like really understanding like the trends have been, it kind of was, like I said, going up, it went way up and then it's been flat. And we need to figure out where it's going to move in the future.
It's really interesting you mentioned curriculum, right, and programs and working maybe together more with the faculty side of the house. What's seeing demand, or I guess in your perspective, right, what pages are seeing the most views, and what ad campaigns are getting the most clicks? Do you think there's an opportunity to partner and more and increasingly with faculty and people who do develop curriculums and certificates and new programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's probably one of the most important questions for us on the marketing side is to, well, I said before, the challenge is probably not as much the external market. As I said, it's like it's us collaborating as a institution or coalescing with faculty, staff, and marketing and admissions, right? We need to be cohesive because the students see that, right? It's like, and they understand like how an institution thinks and grows and breathes. And it's like, it's everything from the message that the dean makes about like where the future is and to how we we propel that throughout all of our different channels and mediums. So yeah, I think it's super important, and that's where the magic happens. I think is when we're working with faculty. So for example, we work with one of our faculty to put together experiential learning for marketing majors where they can actually build their own digital marketing campaigns. So my team goes into the class, sponsors individual groups, and then we actually help them build campaigns, and then we build them, put up dashboards, and they kind of compete, and they absolutely love the experience, right? And it improves, not only does it improve their chance of getting a job in marketing and paid digital, but it also improves the faculty scores with the students, right? So they have a better experience. And then the students talk about the program on social media, and then people come to the program because it's progressive, right? It has an experiential learning element of it. So I think those are some of the ways you can collaborate, is like think more strategically about we're not all in silos. The hard part is we're in marketing, and usually, you know, how marketing works is like everyone looks at marketing and they're like, I could do your job better than you, and I have more time to think about this than you. So like collaborating kind of builds that relationship with faculty, staff, and internal and external partners so that you can have better conversations, better relationships, and identify opportunities to increase those things we talked about before to differentiate your university or college or business school, I guess, in this case.
Yeah. No, this is great. I'm learning a lot, so this is incredible. Kind of along the same lines, I know we had a conversation around like what are some of the things that are working today, and I know one of the things you've brought in your 4 years with Mendoza is bringing some of that media buying in house. Can you tell us a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, so the media we had a digital media buying agency, and one of my experience for many years was doing exactly that in consulting. So when I came here to Notre Dame, the person that brought me in, Tim Bowling, like very good marketing mind, him and I talked a lot about potentially insourcing the paid media aspect. So it was basically we would just place our own media and take those fees and commissions and reinvest that into gaining more, right? Like getting more media and market, having higher control, and then buying some systems that would hopefully make us more efficient and more productive in the way that we were converting through the funnel for our 11 graduate business programs. So, after careful consideration and kind of thinking things through, we got lucky with some like really good hires of people that like kind of in the space but didn't have direct paid media experience. But I put together a onboarding document, a processing plan, and then we had a person here named Lucas who had some experience, and he was instrumental in like getting this team up and running. And we were able to, thankfully it was a bit of a gamble, but within the first 3 months we were at benchmark for the agency with our internal team, and we were saving, probably like 70 to 80% of the fees
Wow.
that we were yeah, just on, we had FTE, but the fees were gone. We were reinvesting a lot, and we've been able to eclipse benchmark because we have so much more in market than we could if we were, cutting that 20-30% out of, 20 cents per dollar out of the media spend. And then the ability to sense and respond and control things very quickly has shown some tremendous benefits as well. So, and it's been a very good experience so far.
Did any of your budgeting for like specific channels change at all? Like the spread of where money goes based on like, where you are today? And do you like inefficiencies of before?
Yeah, that's another good question. So we were like, if you think about it, if you pay someone to generate leads for you, they're going to focus on the top of the funnel and generate a lot of leads. What we start as part of this process, we built a centralized data warehouse where we brought all of the different platforms into the data warehouse, integrated that with our CRM Slate, and they kind of talk back and forth to say not only how many inquiries we generated as far as like form fills, but how many people are actually starting apps and completing applications and being confirmed and committing to the program. So we started to go through full funnel attribution, and we started to see, hey, maybe, some of our, I'm not going to name platforms because I'm loyal to some of these, but some of the platforms weren't converting all the way through. They were getting us a lot of leads. We started to have to start to rethink our inquiry strategy, right? Because we were getting way more inquiries than we could almost handle. And we needed to call, and we still do, we still need to call them down and focus on the quality of contact through the conversion.
Gotcha. And just taking a step back, on forming this media buying or PPC team in-house, like you obviously come from a background working on the consulting side, so you've seen a lot more of this and what it looks like for other institutions or other partners. Like, how can someone without your background and experience know when or if it's the right choice to bring a media buying house into the internal team instead of an external partner?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I think anyone that's committed in this day and age, if you're committed enough to doing something and you know it's the right thing to do, I think you can accomplish it, right? With a good amount of support and the right people. I had some really, I mentioned, this gentleman, Tim and Lucas, and we hired 3 great people, Vasilisa, Chase, and I'm just going to name names because they're awesome, and Fernando, but we had a ton of support. We had support from our leadership team, from our dean, Kremers, and we were able to make a very a good decision based on data and based on return on investment, that this was the direction we needed to go. And we put together, you always want a strategy brief or an action plan that makes sense, right? And it just made sense. So then we had to fill in the gaps. And like I said, a lot of those good people helped out in the process to get that done. And a lot of people, we just made some really good hires to support it. So I think if you feel it, if you can put it on paper and say, this is the right strategy, I have the right support from my institution, the dean and the whoever's making the decisions when it comes to finances, right? You need to make that financial case. Then I think, and we also there's enough data out there and information. You could get certified on Google certified, you can get Facebook certified and LinkedIn certified, and then you need a programmatic partner, and you need to think about some other elements there. But those are the big rocks, right? Or the foundational things that you need done. If you feel like you can handle that, I would definitely consider it. The big piece that's missing, that's like the science of lead generation, right? The art part where it's positioning and creative, that's a whole nother thing, right? Is that you either need strong resources there, or you're also going to have to outsource that. But yeah, short answers. I think anyone can do it if you feel inclined and it's the right decision. But there are some great agencies out there that can do this very well, and I'm not saying that. And it could be a combination. You could try it for a couple of years and learn through your agency. And I think in some cases, most agencies would be open to that, as like being transparent about like kind of giving you the training wheels to try it out yourself.
That's fantastic. Well, congrats to your team, the new hires that made this all happen. I know you mentioned this a little bit before around how you're actually getting almost too many inquiries. And so you're trying to figure out ways to create more filters so you get more quality prospects or leads. Like, what are some of those you're actually doing that?
Yeah, so there used to be lead scoring, and no one knew exactly what lead scoring meant except the person that invented it. But it has to be used. It has to be used directionally, right? So it's like you don't want to throw away a bunch of stuff that may convert just because someone deemed it not worthy from a lead score. We've been using a lot of different scoring though, as far as engagement rates. So when an inquiry comes in the system, we look at the source. If it's a really good source like PPC, like paid AdWords or keywords, we probably just let it through. But if it's a display network type thing, we'll put it in a queue and wait for someone to engage with it. So we'll look for an engagement score before we pass that along to our pipeline team and our enrollment team. So those are some of the tactics, like very high level, that we're using. And we're constantly trying to calibrate those scores so that we get the best possible result. We also are trying to like get ahead of some of the major platforms like Google. I think everyone who's listening to this, including it's like the more you buy from them, the more they want to give you, and the more questionable the quality gets, and you start to get just like a lot of waste. So we're trying to like work with them as a strategic partner. We were just there with them in Chicago yesterday, and we're trying to make sure that we get a very clear line on what they're seeing, right? And they don't disclose everything, but they will. They usually credit, or not even credit. They don't even charge us for like a majority of our leads, but we don't know it because they never give us a reconciliation on it, right? So we need to kind of like triage those and make sure that they go to the right place, and we understand what sources that they are coming from.
Wow, I've had a much different relationship with Google. I mean, we're probably not spending as much as you are, and so we might get a lower tier sales rep. But usually, the conversation goes around, "Hey, you should expand your audience and put more money here." And it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. You're just trying to get me to spend more money in your platform by opening up my targeting, which is going to get me more bad traffic.
Yeah, it's tough. Believe me, I get that, and I'm sure we have a wonderful partnership with Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and
Yep.
We're using a programmatic group, and I think we spend a decent amount, and we are obviously a good brand for them, and we take the time to give it back. And I get it; it's a little different for you as an agency and a provider, but good luck on that. But I think the other side of that too is I worked at LinkedIn and their education solutions group, and we always did talk about expanding targeting because it is kind of a catch-22. If you're too specific, you're going to pay a lot. You're going to pay a premium to get a small amount of traffic. If you open it up, you let the platform do the work, and you should see, in the opinion of the platform, and probably in some cases, unless you're really savvy, they're probably right. Like they do give you decent advice, but it's just hard to let go of that being super specific. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to buy media, right? That's why we get paid a couple bucks to do it. But it is good to get reps and get guidance, and that's another thing when we go back. It's not like super easy just to insource your paid media, because you do need to think about those things like targeting, filtering, the rules that change, industry factors that come into play, and those are things that you definitely want to have someone to consult with to do if you don't have experience, because it'll get you ahead of the curve. And there's so many different rules with Google for higher ed that might throw you off. So definitely like do your due diligence and before you kind of take a jump.
Yeah, I love talking about all these the super detailed parts of running paid media. So I appreciate you sharing all that. I'm wondering, taking a bigger picture at the business school specific lens. Do you have any advice for other marketing roles within the business school space in terms of like, if you're just getting started, do you have any advice to give to them?
Talk to Shiro. No, it's a good question. I mean, I think it's be strong. The most important thing I think about being higher ed as a marketer is believing in yourself, like getting yourself in a position where you feel good about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And it's hard work. Like the one thing I don't do enough of, and I'm starting to do it again, is strategy briefs. And when you're starting to do something, think about the objective. Think about what is the key objective. What are you really trying to do? And then build a strategy that addresses just that, like stay out of the weeds, and then roll in the tactics, right? And stay true to that, and help and educate people around you on how to meet those objectives and why the objectives are important. Because us in marketing and higher ed, it's like everything's on the table. It's like from a $1 million digital marketing campaign to like the poster that's outside of the student union. People believe you're responsible for that because you're the marketing, right? Part. So staying very clear and very focused on what's going to really impact based on your resources and your time and your staff and the goals of the institution and your goals. It's super hard to stay focused, but that's where you want to live. So that's my advice. I don't know how to fix it. Like, get there, working on it. But we do use a very strict OKR strategy, and we try and adhere to it and educate everyone around us to do so as well.
Yeah. Thank you. And I know, thanks for sharing that. And I know I like this thing you said last time in the previous call that, a lot of the business school demand is driven by rankings, peer review, or what's the right word of mouth, and then also outcome driven. So I really liked how you kind of laid it out into those three easy to understand categories as well.
Yeah, those are big, especially for traditional MBA programs. It's, it kind of rises all ships. When you think about rankings, it not only does it help with student recruitment, but faculty recruitment, staff recruitment, kind of overall positioning. Uh, it's very important, but it's not the only thing. We talked about before the student journey. I think is the most important. It's and the people that are involved in that is like we're shaping people to go out in the world and change it, right? So it means a lot of things. But unfortunately or fortunately, those rankings are really sought after, right? And what that relies on is how peers perceive you and how the outcomes that the students get, the experiences they have in the program, among a lot of other things as well.
Well, Brian, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've learned a lot already. I'm wondering where our listeners could reach out to you and understand some of the work you're doing.
Yeah, so please reach out to me on Facebook. That's where the majority of my information is, and I'd be happy to connect with any of the listeners and talk about higher ed marketing.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining the show today, and thanks to our listeners for tuning in. Catch us on the next one.
All right, Shiro. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.